The Dow Jones Index closes at a record high, above 42,000, to close a strong week on Wall Street, led by 50 basis point cut by the U.S. Fed. Key indices gain over a percent each, with the S&P 500 closing at record highs. Stocks in Asia Pacific trade higher following a slew of central bank actions. The GIFT Nifty is suggesting a lower start for the Indian market. Crude prices, Brent edges towards $75 per barrel mark on the Fed's rate cut and rising tension in West Asia. The gold rally continues, with yellow metal hitting fresh record high above $2,600 an ounce. In key outcomes from Prime Minister Modi's trip to the United States, India and the US will set up the world's first multi-chip fabrication facility in Uttar Pradesh to make advanced chips for high-technology warfare platforms. PM Modi says the vision to make in India a global hub for semiconductor manufacturing. Sri Lanka elects Anura Kumara Disayanake as its new president. The Marxist leader defeats incumbent President Ranil and opposition leader Sajith to become Sri Lanka's 10th president. Good morning in the Mumbai News Centre. I'm Vinny Motiwala and you're watching Power Breakfast. Let's look at how the handover has actually come in from the US markets and how Asian markets have opened up. Seems like a positive start that one is watching out for, at least from the Asian markets, because Hang Seng managing to hold on to strong positive gains. Taiwan Index also holding on to gains of 0.6%. Last week we did have Bank of Japan, China's central banks also taking some rate decisions. So yes, keeping an eye out on all these Asian markets. So whether you look at a Kospi, ASX 200, Shanghai, all of them opening with a bit of a positive start. But let's look at the Nifty implied open as well. A bit of a muted start, maybe an indication that is coming in for the Indian markets as of now. Actually, not muted, much on the positive side. You know, last Friday we saw a run-up coming in the markets for the Nifty, at least a sharp run-up, and implied open indicating a bit of a positive start right now for the Indian markets. But what's happened in the US markets? US markets, Dow Jones surely managed to close on the positive front. Now, overall, Friday's trading session was quite mixed, where we saw Dow eked out a gain and added 38 points in an inch up to the new closing high. S&P 500 closed 11 points in the red, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq, that actually shed almost 65 points. However, all these three major indices notched weekly gains, so quite positive on that front. And S&P, in fact, actually posted its fifth positive week. CNBC's Peepa Stevens is getting us a wrap on how the U.S. markets actually closed.
U.S. markets were mixed across the major indexes Friday, but still managed a winning week after the Fed cut interest rates by 0.5 point on Wednesday. The Dow hit a new all-time high again and was up 38 points. But the S&P fell 11 points and the tech-heavy Nasdaq slid 66 points. Word of a potential mega merger in technology today. The Wall Street Journal reports that Qualcomm has approached Intel in recent days about a takeover. Intel stock is down more than 50% this year as investors question the company's plans to manufacture and design chips. Intel shares rose about 8% on the report. If the deal were to happen, it would be one of the largest tech mergers ever. And Constellation Energy plans to restart the 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant and sell the power to Microsoft for their data centers used to support artificial intelligence. Constellation says it expects to bring the Unit 1 reactor in Pennsylvania online in 2028. That reactor is separate from the one that melted down in 1979 in the country's worst nuclear accident. However, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission said today it has yet to receive an application to restart it. Constellation stock was up more than 20% on the day. That's what's happening here in the U.S. Back to you in Mumbai.
Thank you so much for that. But staying with the Wall Street, let's listen in to the Fed Governor Christopher Waller, who was one of the key decision makers for the Federal Reserve cutting rates by 50 basis points. This time, the explanation and the rationale behind why the Fed cut this 50 basis point instead of 25 basis point. Listen in to all of that.
Over the last 4 months, if this estimate comes in correct, core PCE is running below our target. And that's with very high housing services inflation. We did a simple calculation, my team and I, that if housing inflation grew at 2% annualized and you plug that into the monthly numbers, core PCE would be running under 1% for the last 4 months. So that is what put me back a bit to say, wow, inflation is softening much faster than I thought it was going to. And that is what put me over the edge to say, look, I think 50 is the right thing to do.
That's all about the US markets, but how did the European markets also fare in Friday's trading session? Not much of an excitement, look at the CAC, DAX, FTSE, all of them actually closed in the red. Now we're seeing a lot of tech-heavy stocks in the European markets also didn't do well. So, that is some bit of a pressure that we're seeing coming in the European markets. A lot of central banks, that decisions that happened last week was something that overall weighed on the European markets. So, yes, in Europe, mainly the tech stocks lost as much as almost 3% in trade on Friday. Mining stocks, those were also down. So, pressure was building in on the European stocks. Mercedes, the auto stocks, which have actually cut their guidance also in this last year when we look at it in 2024. So that is also still under pressure because of the demand trends in the global market. That has not been something exciting. So auto stocks like Mercedes actually slumped as much as 8% in the European market. So yes, not much of an excitement that we see coming in from the European markets. A mix closed over there. A lot of decisions that we're watching out for in the European markets. Stock 600 also provisionally closed lower by almost 1.4%, reversing its Thursday's upbeat performance. So yes, interesting to watch out for how those global markets will actually start impacting and affecting us in terms of the handover that we have. Now, what are we watching out for in the Indian markets? We have our research team joining in with us for the trade setups to watch out for in terms of the FNO front, as well as what are the stocks that we are keeping an eye out on. So first up, Vivek, coming to you. Good morning. How is the market queue looking like? What are we watching out for this morning in trade?
Well, good morning, Winnie. Quite a lot happened over the weekend, and in fact, the Friday close, both Indian markets as well as the kind of handover we received is extremely positive. Just like the Indian markets, even the US markets, it was a winning week as far as Wall Street was concerned. Dow Jones continued to post a record close even on Friday markets. Now talking about the crude oil prices and something that we track quite closely, crude ended lower on Friday. Brent futures now hovering around the $74.5 a barrel mark, while WTI futures closer to the $72 a barrel mark. So that continues to remain a tailwind. Now coming to the Indian markets and how they fared on Friday. Remember, Indian markets saw a sharp rally on Friday. Quite a lot of cues actually worked in favor of the Indian markets on Friday. Number one, the metal sector, auto sector was something that did very well. Remember, on Friday, you also saw passive ETF buying on the back of the FTSE rebalance. So that particular flows was close to $1 billion, and that aided the rally, especially in the second half of the trading session. The Nifty bank, that was one particular sector of the market that continued to outperform for the second week in running. And also, when you're talking about what didn't do so well, it was actually the defensives that saw quite a bit of selling pressure or profit booking. So pharma and IT was something that were top sectoral laggards in the week gone by. Asian markets, barring Japan, which is closed, indicating a positive start. GIFT Nifty 2 indicating positive start for our own markets today.
Thanks so much for that, Vivek. But let's move on. And Vamakshi is also with us to tell us which are the stocks to watch out for in trade today. Vamakshi, good morning.
Well, good morning, Winnie. Let me first start off with HDFC Bank. The company's board, the company's subsidiary, HDB Financial Services Board, has actually approved plans for an IPO. The IPO is expected to include a fresh issue worth 2,500 crores and an OFS by the existing shareholders. Mankind Fiber is the next one that I'm watching out for. They are looking to raise up to 10,000 crores via NCDs and commercial papers on private placement basis. BHEL has received a notification of order worth almost 6,100 crores from NTPC, and this is for 800 megawatt thermal power project. Tata Steel has gone ahead and commissioned India's largest blast furnace at Kalinganagar, Odisha, with an investment of almost 27,000 crores. The crude steel capacity stands expanded from 3 MTPA to 8 MTPA. ONGC is the next stock that I'm watching out for. They've gone ahead and signed a non-associated gas deal in Azeri, Chirag, Deepwater, Gunashli, that is ACG, which is in Azerbaijan. The non-associated natural gas resources of ACG are believed to be very significant, with up to nearly 4 TCF in place. Vodafone Idea has concluded a mega $3.6 billion or 30,000 crore deal with 3 global network partners, Nokia, Ericsson, as well as Seng. Samsung, and this is for supply of network equipment over the period of 3 years, and this in turn marks the company's first step towards the rollout of the company's capex plan. Glenmark Pharma, US FDA, has issued Form 483 with 0 observations for its Aurangabad facility, while Aarti Drugs has received 7 observations for Form 483. Lastly, let's watch out for HFCL. They've signed a strategic partnership with GASI to develop and supply critical subsystems for advanced unmanned aircraft systems.
Thank you so much for that, Bamakshi. But lastly, let's go across to Nigel and watch out for what is happening in the world of F&O, Nigel.
Well, morning, Vinny, and good to see you on Power Breakfast. Looking forward to interacting with you more on this show, one of my most special shows.
Thank you so much, Nigel, for that. But F&O, is that looking exciting this morning?
Well, it's looking very, very exciting. You know, the Nifty Bank has come back into play in the last couple of weeks or so. And we had made this point, on Bazaar itself, that the Nifty Bank has underperformed for the last 1 year or so, but it has to lead the way from here on. And the last 1 month or so, the Nifty Bank, as that graphic plate will tell you, well, it's definitely been a rank outperformer. So the party is on, the trend is up, but there are a few signs that are calling for a bit of cautiousness, and some of them should come up for you on the screen. The Nifty ended sharply higher in Friday's trading session. That was backed by a FTSE rebalance as well. That's why you saw the spurt in the final hour of trade, which explains why we had very big gross buy numbers from the FIs as well as the net buy numbers. But when the Nifty moves up and the VIX moves up, that's a bit of a cautious sign because normally they have an inverse relation. Point number 2, the PCR has moved to around 1.5. That's the upper end of the range. Normally at around 1.6 odd, we do see some cooling off. Point number 3, the FIs are long, but they net long very, very aggressively. And sometimes I get a little bit of an, not a very, very great feeling. When you see the long addition a single session at around 1 lakh contracts, they covered some shorts as well. And now the net long positioning is at around 3.5 lakh contracts. Gross positioning more than 5 lakh contracts odd. So that's a bit of an uncomfortable sign for me. And the clients as well, they are net short and they are the ones that have been getting it right. So just keep that in mind. Well, what about the levels to track? As I said, the trend is up till the Nifty holds on to the near-term support level of around 25,200, which is the 20 DMA. But there are some cautious markers out there, so keep an eye out on that. The stock that I'll track is one that's come out of the F&O ban, Bidla Soft. Keep that one on your radar. Back to you.
Thank you so much for that, Nigel. Surely keeping an eye out on the trade setup there in India for all the stocks and what's happening in the world of F&O. So keep an eye out on that. But on that note, we'll slip into a very short break. But don't go anywhere because after the break, we'll give you all the updates on that is happening in the US when Prime Minister Narendra Modi, what's about his visit there. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Power Breakfast on CNBC TV 18. Let's move on. And like I said, PM Modi has actually gone to and visited to the United States, and India and the US will set up the world's first multi-chip fabrication facility in Uttar Pradesh to make advanced chips. Parikshit is joining in with us to give us all those details on the phone line. What's the latest update there? Parikshit, good morning.
Well, this is a big update in terms of the growing semiconductor collaboration between India and the United States. What we are going to see as a result is a semiconductor fabrication unit come up in Jewar, which is in Uttar Pradesh, Greater Noida, right next to the new and upcoming airport. And this will have facilities for not just R&D, it will have a design center, and it will have 2 fabrication units. The chips that would be made here would be for both India and US. These would be used for cutting-edge military technologies. They would be used in devices such as night vision devices, also radars, jammers, satellites, space technology, even electric vehicles for that matter, communications equipment used for defense for that matter, and renewable energy components. There is some talk between India and the United States about also exporting these chips to third countries in the Asia Pacific, also Africa and other Quad nations for that matter. So there will be multiple investors in this project. This is expected to begin in the year 2025 as far as the construction goes. Bharat Semiconductor, Third iTech, These are companies from the Indian side which will be supporting the project. From the US side, you'll have the US Space Force, which is actually a part of the US military. The Indian Semicon project will also be supporting this multi-material chip fabrication unit, which is primarily catering to national security needs. This is the first of its kind, and also the first of its kind in the Indo-Pacific. Barring China, no other country has capability to make chips of this kind. So that's what makes this project extremely important.
Absolutely an important one there, Parikshit. But do stay on with us because PM Modi also attended a tech roundtable meeting which focused on artificial intelligence and a lot more on that front. So could you tell us about the updates on there?
Well, that's right. There was a roundtable organized by MIT. The Prime Minister met at least 12 or 13 top US CEOs. These were from companies like Global Foundries, AMD, which are into semiconductor fabrication and designing. He also met Sundar Pichai of Google, Arvind Krishna of IBM, Shantanu Narayan of Adobe. He also met the CEOs of Eli Lilly, Moderna, as well, Kyndryl. So the focus literally was on how to make India a hub for artificial intelligence, biotechs, and also for semiconductors. He said that India, over the last few years, has been able to get 5 companies to invest in the semiconductor ecosystem, and we would like India to become a leading global semiconductor manufacturing hub. So that was his pitch to the companies. On AI, the Prime Minister said that we want Indian policies, Indian regulations to be focused on responsible and trusted use of artificial intelligence. He also spoke about the recent Bio E3 policy of the Indian government and all the reforms that have taken place over the last few months, and how the Indian government is ready to make policy changes, interventions to make it smoother for these companies to come and invest in India. So clearly there was a big push for collaboration under ISET, collaboration under Semicon, collaboration under CHIPS Act. All in all, a win-win visit for both India and United States. And just as an aside, I'd like to point out that India and US have also agreed on a pact to deploy $1 billion in setting up clean energy supply chains in India, that is clean energy manufacturing. So this would really go a long way in boosting India's capability in terms of making things like electric vehicle batteries, chemicals used in electric vehicles, ingots, and other components used in renewable energy technology.
Absolutely, Parikshit. Thank you so much for joining in with us this morning and giving us an update on what is the latest coming in from Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the United States. But on that note, we're going to slip into a very short break. Up next, we'll get your cues from the world of commodities. What's happening to gold? Stay tuned in. Welcome back. You're watching Power Breakfast on CNBC TV 18. What's happening in the world of commodities now? Gold on Friday surely closed at those all-time high levels again, continued to glitter. But Manisha Gupta joining in with us this morning to give us the update in the world of commodities.
Well, thank you so much for that. Yes, with the kind of run-up that we've seen in gold, with all-time highs being hit at $26, $25 an ounce, it's up by 27% in this year until now, outperforming various other asset classes. But the biggest annual rise since 2010 also comes in on the back of hedging uncertainties, also prolonged conflicts in Middle East and elsewhere. The geopolitical risks, such as ongoing conflicts in Gaza, Ukraine, and elsewhere, is ensuring that the gold safe haven demand is sustained. Not just gold, the silver prices are trading at a 2-month highs. Copper also is trading at a 2-month highs. The U.S. Fed rate cut by 50 basis points and expectations from a China stimulus have been supportive factors. Quickly, a word on the crude oil prices, which also have extended gains above $75 a barrel right now. Well, support from the weak dollar index, escalating Middle East tensions, and of course, U.S. planning the lightest maintenance in 3 years are all supportive factors. So almost 8 out of 10 commodities in Asian markets right now are trading in the positive.
Okay, that's the update in the commodity world. But let's move on. And actually, that's all the time we have on this edition of Power Breakfast. So thank you so much for tuning in to CNBC TV 18. Bazaar Morning Call comes up next.